The Valdorian Empire had conquered 17 star systems with mathematical precision. Their strategy was always the same: identify the most potent cultural weapons of a species, then eliminate them before they could spark resistance. Art, literature, spiritual practices, all were catalogued and systematically suppressed. But when they reached Earth, they encountered something that defied their understanding. Commander Zethkar stood in the sterile briefing room aboard the flagship Dominance, studying holographic displays of human settlements. His 6 eyes examined the data with clinical detachment, while his subordinates waited in perfect silence. The Valdorians were a species that valued order above all else, their entire civilization built on rigid hierarchies and absolute control. The humans possess a peculiar form of cultural expression, Zethkar announced, his voice carrying the metallic undertone common to his species. They call it music. Our analysts report it consists of organized sound waves that serve no tactical purpose, yet it appears in every human settlement we've surveyed. Sub-Commander Veltar activated a recording device, the bridge filled with the sound of a human guitar, a simple folk song recorded from a colony on Kepler 442b. Several Valdorian officers shifted uncomfortably as the melody washed over them. Curious, Zethkar mused, though something flickered behind his cold eyes. The humans seem to prioritize this activity even when resources are scarce. They gather in groups to perform these songs, rather than focusing on defensive preparations. What the Valdorians didn't understand was that this was humanity's greatest defense. The ban came swiftly. Within weeks of the occupation, all human musical instruments were confiscated. Public gatherings for musical purposes were forbidden. The penalty for possession of recording devices containing music was immediate imprisonment. Dr. Sarah Chen, an ethnomusicologist trapped on the occupied colony of New Harmony, watched from her apartment window as Valdorian soldiers loaded confiscated instruments into transport vehicles. Guitars, violins, drums, even children's toy keyboards, all disappeared into the cold efficiency of the Empire's suppression machine. But the Valdorians had made a critical error. They could confiscate instruments and destroy recordings, but they couldn't extract music from human memory. That night, in the darkness of an abandoned warehouse, Sarah met with other survivors. There was Marcus, who'd been the colony's choir director; Elena, a street musician who could play 12 instruments; David, whose grandmother had taught him old freedom songs from Earth's civil rights era. "They think they can silence us," Sarah whispered, her breath visible in the cold air. "They don't understand that music isn't just sounds. It's encoded in our DNA, woven into our souls." Marcus nodded grimly. "My grandfather survived 3 wars. He used to say that tyrants fear songs more than weapons, because weapons can be taken away. But a song lives forever." They began that night with humming, soft, careful, barely audible. The melody of Amazing Grace drifted through the warehouse like a prayer. Then Elena added harmony. David contributed a counter-melody his grandmother had taught him. Soon the warehouse filled with something the Valdorians had never encountered: the sound of human voices unified not by command, but by choice. Within days the resistance had spread. Workers hummed while clearing rubble. Children tapped rhythms with their fingers during mandatory education sessions. Elderly colonists whistled old Earth songs while tending to community gardens. The Valdorians noticed the change immediately. Productivity among human workers began to increase rather than decrease. Morale, which their predictive models had calculated would collapse within standard months, remained mysteriously stable. Most disturbing of all, incidents of human cooperation increased exponentially. Sub-Commander Veltar reported to Zethkar, with obvious confusion. "Sir, our psychological warfare protocols appear to be failing. The humans are exhibiting group cohesion patterns that defy our projections." Zethkar studied the data feeds from surveillance drones. In every human settlement, people moved with a subtle synchronization that hadn't been present before the occupation. They walked in rhythm, worked in rhythm, even breathed in rhythm during their mandated assembly periods. "They're still making Music, he realized with growing alarm. Without instruments, without recordings, they've weaponized their own biology. The breakthrough came when a Valdorian patrol attempted to suppress a gathering of human children. The youngsters had been teaching each other clapping games, their small hands creating complex rhythmic patterns passed down through generations. When the soldiers ordered them to stop, something extraordinary happened. The children began to sing. It started with just one voice, a 7-year-old girl named Amy, whose mother had been a music teacher. The song was, "We Shall Overcome," though she changed the words to "We Shall Remember." Within moments, every human in the area had joined in. Adults emerged from buildings, workers abandoned their tools, even the elderly stepped out of their homes. The Valdorian soldiers found themselves surrounded by hundreds of voices raised in harmony. But this wasn't the sound of rebellion they'd been trained to suppress. This was something far more dangerous, the sound of unbreakable human spirit. For the first time in their military careers, the Valdorian soldiers hesitated. That hesitation cost them the war. The song spread across New Harmony like wildfire. Within hours, every human settlement was singing. The melody jumped from colony to colony via quantum communication arrays, modified and adapted but never losing its essential power. Workers on mining platforms hummed it while they labored. Farmers sang it in their fields. Even humans in Valdorian detention facilities tapped out the rhythm on cell walls. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of the Dominance, listening to reports from across the occupied territories. Every human world was experiencing the same phenomenon. His perfectly ordered occupation was dissolving into chaos, not because of weapons or violence, but because of organized sound waves. "Sir," Veltar reported, his voice carrying an emotion no Valdorian should possess, uncertainty. "The humans have achieved something our analysts deemed impossible. They've maintained cultural unity across 73 separate worlds using nothing but music." Zethkar closed his 6 eyes and made a decision that would echo through galactic history. "Begin withdrawal procedures," he ordered. "All ships, all personnel, all occupation forces." "Sir?" Veltar couldn't hide his shock. "We haven't been defeated. They have no weapons capable of—" "They have the only weapon that matters," Zethkar interrupted. "They have something worth singing about." As the Valdorian fleet retreated into hyperspace, the humans continued to sing. Their voices carried across the void, not in triumph, but in remembrance of what it meant to be human. They sang of love and loss, of hope and heartbreak, of the ineffable beauty of existence itself. The Valdorian Empire would go on to conquer 12 more star systems, but they never again attempted to suppress music. Some weapons, they learned, were too dangerous to ban. And in the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't won with starships or plasma cannons. It was won with a song.